I'm gonna give you 3 reasons why your cel shading sucks right now. Bad lighting, bad shapes, bad color. End of story. Stick around. Right, so the first reason your cel shading sucks is because of improper lighting. Your lighting is just inaccurate. We have to remember that cel shading follows the basic rules of light, which is something I went over in my rendering tips video. But remember that the direction of light is going to determine basically everything about an object. So if I have this light here coming down, and it shades this object, a cel shaded look would look something like this. Pretty cool. Pretty basic. I also highly recommend sticking just to 2 tones, your local color, so whatever the color of your character is, the skin, the boot, whatever it is, stick to just that color and add a shadow on top of it. Let's not worry about bounce light or ambient light or anything, and I would even save specular for very specific things, but if you have 3 tones everywhere, then everything seems like the same level of material, and I'd rather just keep things simple. Put specular where it's needed. Okay, so let's go over why this doesn't work in its current form. This lighting makes no sense. Look, I have light coming from here, then I have light coming from over here, then I have light coming from down here. The cast shadows are just totally all over the place. We have one going here, the shape doesn't even complete here. The lighting is just totally broken. How do we fix this? Well, I'll show you a quick time lapse of me fixing this. And I actually completely just changed the light source in general because I kind of had a more dramatic look for this character in mind. And what I did is I just start by blocking the character totally black on a multiply layer set to about, 70%, because I really just want to focus on the shapes of the light. So we've created what is called a shadow map. You can think of it that way. And effectively, this shadow map is telling us everything we need to know about the forms here. Beneath this basic shadow map is a character who I've now added local colors to. He's got green skin and a red hat and a yellow drill, and on top of it I've changed the color of the shadows to a nice warm red. Even though it's not indicative of the environment, it's indicative of the hot environment that he lives in. You chose to put black on a multiply layer and set it to 50% and thought that's how shadows look. Don't do that, man. Don't do that to yourself. You're ruining your art. So when you determine the light source, then we can determine cast shadows, right? So all the cast shadows kind of follow this parallel line here, so they all just kind of bing, bing, bing. Everything is just, I'm just thinking like that. Like everything is just bing, popping this way. Now, the next thing we're gonna go over is shape design. Shape design follows the rules of design, so balance, harmony, big, medium, small, right? So the idea of big, medium, small is that you have a big, medium, and a small, and these things balance each other out. But the way that we can push shapes is also by thinking of our lines and the colors that we include, or the shadow shapes we include, as also big, medium, small. So for example, this line right here, watch this. Wow, that's boring. But watch this. If I extend this line over here and then make it really short at the end, that's a little bit more interesting, isn't it? That's because we have really just a big and a small, but we could do something like medium, big, and then small. Now that's kind of an interesting line. We can apply this philosophy to anything that we draw. If we want interesting shapes, we can create big, medium, big again. Whoops, I failed. Big, medium, big. So instead of drawing a basic triangle, maybe we offset it just a bit. Well, it's already a little bit more interesting. But now we have this straight line here, so I kind of goofed on that too. I wonder if I can take this boring triangle idea, right, from this to this, and make it maybe just push it a bit more. That's pretty interesting. That's looking a bit more interesting. We got a small and 2 big. I think it's gonna be very difficult to actually find a big, medium, small inside a triangle. Maybe I'm just terrible at what I do, and I don't know what I'm talking about. The point is that instead of having something totally predictable, we start pushing these things a bit more. Not every circle should look like this and be like, it's my style, when really you don't actually know how to draw a shape, a basic shape. But I'm just saying that if you want to learn how to push shapes, starting with interesting ideas of like, how do I push a circle? How do I push a curve? Are good things to worry about. Just by skewing the shapes a bit, we get a little bit more movement. What sorts of interesting shapes can we make that are pleasing to the eye? Sometimes I just fill up a whole page of random shapes that I try and make look as cool as possible, because I'm still not very good at this. But I am telling you the basic foundational design principles behind this decision-making, this thought process. So word salad aside, learn how to do this. It's really important. Just grab a piece of paper or a blank canvas and just start making interesting shapes. And you'll start noticing these in your favorite franchises, that they just have similar shapes all over the place. And this is what we call shape language, right? Shape language comes from a single shape being morphed and then repeated throughout in a harmonizing and pleasant way. How do we apply this to cel shading? Well, a lot of cel shading lacks basic shape design. So I'm going to show you, you know, we have medium, big, right, and then right along here, these two are too similar. So see, I'm going to correct my work in real time. These two are just, see how boring that is? Like, it's kind of interesting, but really what I could do instead is maybe just offer this as a curve. So then we have a straight and a curve to add some. But again, I have to determine where the terminator is. So if the light is hitting here, there's going to be a transition in the form of his tricep where the light is just lost. And I have to determine where that is. And then I have to keep that consistent, because if I start breaking my own rules everywhere, then the art falls apart a bit. I'm really struggling with this decision right here, because I don't really like these sharp shapes. I try to avoid really sharp shapes. I keep doing this, man. This is I'm telling you, I'm still working on this, but you see how this and this are similar in shape and form, and it just kind of is boring. Whereas like these two got a big one and like a little guy, right? That's an interesting shape. This is an interesting shape. And just intentionally design your shapes. That's what shape design means. You are consciously thinking about what your shapes look like. You can get creative. Don't be beholden to any of these rules. If you think your art looks good the way it is, you're probably wrong. So now there's two things I'm going to introduce. I am going to introduce ambient light, because this is like part of the comic style that I do in my own work. So I am going to just take this light here, put it on a normal layer, and just reduce it to like 20, 25, and just start lighting up. Lighting up areas where the ambient light is going to drop into those shadows and start coloring them. And light up those forms. He's got these huge back muscles. He's a hardworking dude. And I'm thinking about the shapes that I'm making as I do it. So where the forms of these objects are turned upwards, and they're catching the ambient light coming down and sitting on top of it. So this wouldn't make any sense. His legs and his butt are formed downward. So like maybe we could catch the backside of him. That's not really what I'm interested in. So that isn't the type of artwork I make. I haven't used white yet. I haven't used any specularity, because I'm saving that to emphasize certain parts of either the machinery or his own clothes. I was just getting a ground plane in place, because now I'm going to add another round of lighting. I'm just going to take this. I'm breaking all the rules that I gave you, and that is why you have to know the rules before you break them. Now I'm going to do bounce light from the ground, and because we have this orange glow here, actually I think I usually set this to like hard light. I'm going to do like a hard light layer here, and get these nice little pops of color. Keep it real simple. We just want to indicate that the character is standing on a ground plane. The last thing we're going to do is add specular. Remember, I told you we held out on those highlights because it's just really potent. So I'm just going to use white, and I'm just going to start spraying and praying, okay? You can add as many tones and colors as you want to cel shading, but it's a matter of pleasing shapes, choosing the right colors, and proper lighting. Because if those things fall apart, your drawing falls apart. Like, skin does get specular on it in very specific places where it's like oily, like up by the eyes and the nose. Or, you know, if you're glistening in the sunlight, so to speak, which maybe he is after a hard day of work. But again, I'm not making that kind of artwork, if you know what I mean. So, all right, and the last thing I'm gonna do, which is actually, I'm gonna turn it into an auto action and share it with you all at some point. One, coloring my line art, okay? I'm gonna color the line art to really give this the extra pop that it needs. So I'm gonna flatten my line art, and then I'm going to isolate my colors. So now that I've clicked that button, it created a saturated darkened version of my flat colors. I'm gonna drag them above my lines and place them there. So there we go. I've also created an auto action to automatically create light fall off around my shadows, which is super helpful. So if you want to add that little pop of color along your shadows, I've created an auto action for that. It's pretty cool. You just click it and it does it. At some point, I'll make a separate video about all the auto actions that I've created for myself, and I will release them to you all for free, like a lot of my resources, which you can check out at my Gumroad, including some of the brushes that I've used today. But as soon as it's done, I'll be sure to give you all my auto actions, which I think are super helpful, including one for coloring your line art, so you don't have to watch this video anymore. You can just click on a button and it'll do it for you. But with that being said, I hope you learned something today. Let's go over, in summary, what I went over. So, the 3 main causes of bad cel shading are bad lighting, bad shapes, bad color. End of story. All right, everyone, that's gonna be it for me. I hope you enjoyed the video, learned something. Remember those 3 key takeaways, and share it with your favorite friend on Discord. Or if you don't have any friends, make friends. You can like this video and subscribe, and I'll be your friend for sure, definitely. Oh, and if you didn't already, check out this video here that I go over the basics of rendering and a brief summary of basic lighting. So in case you are confused about what I'm talking about throughout this video, this will clear it up for you. Until next time, make good art.